I'm Judy Green and welcome back to NatChat. So Paul, before the break, we were getting into some interesting areas. What I'm really interested in are the sort of tools, for instance, if whether within the family, you know, scenarios where disagreements and things like that, you know, can we talk about what sort of tools?
Sure, not a problem, not a problem. It's an interesting one because my wife, when I start using those tools in my family, and my wife looks at me and says, "Don't you do those things on me." But the tools, there's a common set of tools that I believe that we should all learn, and one of the tools that is the most effective one is what is to do with rapport. And rapport is really developing that ability to be able to relate to someone else in terms of what you do. There's an old saying that says, when we're like each other, we like each other.
True.
So
yeah.
the issue is that rapport is a process for responsiveness. So we want to be able to respond to the individual and to the person so they know. And that deals with anything, whether it be relationships at home, or it could be relationships at work, or even just going out and buying something at the supermarket. You can develop rapport with the person very quickly.
It's difficult because I shouldn't say it's difficult. Like sometimes I find, you know, you're wanting to get on with a person, but it's difficult to sometimes want to see the other person's side.
But you don't have to see the other person's side. You only have to make them feel as though that you're similar to them. So there's a process, there's a way of doing that really, really easily in terms of the issue, and that is to work and respond in a particular way so that the person feels comfortable with who you are. So you're a long lost friend that you've seen with them, and those steps are firstly reacting and responding in the same modality, what we call modality, as the person. So what a modality is the type of person that you are. Whether you're a visual person, you like to see things, colourful things, you're up front. People normally talk with a higher voice when they do that and faster. Then you have people who are auditory, who listen and hear things. Then you have people who are kinesthetic, who are like touchy-feely people. A good question for that one is Nicolas Cage, the movie star. When you see him, he normally walks slowly, he talks slowly, he's usually looking down on the ground when you see him. And that's typical of what you see of a kinesthetic person, a touchy-feely person. So
but to learn about even these areas, I know you've written 3 books, it isn't an ad for you, but I mean even to get to first base, to be able to assess which type of person we're speaking with. Is that how we look online? We look at books, we do some studies with you? Any
of those things to do, but it's not a long process. It's fairly short. Within I think I mentioned before, about half an hour, you could easily explain those situations, and you can tell from body language and the way that people respond.
What am I?
What are you, visual and kinesthetic? Oh. You can have a combination of both, visual and kinesthetic.
And kinesthetic is which one?
Touchy-feely.
Oh, okay. I'm keeping my distance. Okay, so once we've assessed the type of person we're speaking with, so this is whether it be friends, family, business, that's the first thing we assess, the type of person. So,
well, yes, oh. and any type of person that we're dealing with, we just observe what they're doing and what they're saying and let them talk first. Because most people like to talk about the most interesting thing, which is themselves. So that's easy to do. Okay. And then what you do is then talk at the same speed. You talk at the same tonality, at their pitch.
Can people tell if you're practicing?
Yes, you can. They do if they know, but generally they don't. And then the other thing, of course, is then you do what we call mirroring. So if a person has got certain gestures, like you are doing at the moment, if I gestured and did this at the same time, you feel more comfortable because I'm doing the same thing as you're doing.
Okay.
Now, if I'm doing this too obviously, then I can use other parts of my body and do it this way.
Okay.
So that's not as obvious about what I do and how I go about it. But that just breaks the ice and makes people feel more comfortable about what you're doing for those areas. And then, of course, one of the other things is you get people to talk about themselves and you match experiences. So my experience to your experiences, then we have something of commonality between us. And again, that breaks down the barriers and we start to feel better about who we are. So those processes of developing rapport makes it really easy. And of course, if you smile at someone, it's a lot better to do it. Every time you smile at someone and pick your energy up and towards the person, they're going to respond back to who you are.
Now, how do you feel about reading a book by its cover or not? Isn't there a certain, within a certain amount of seconds or minutes where it says someone?
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
The
and
general,
what's that based on?
The general, it's actually from the advertising work that's been done in the US. They originally started, I think it was about 30 seconds, and then over the years, people's attention spans have become less. And we're down now to around 7 to 10 seconds in terms of that period. And 93% of what we do is non-verbal. So people pick that up at an unconscious level about what we're doing. So 55% is physiology. So when you walk up to someone, they're already making a decision. I'm sure you never saw another woman and said, I don't like her hair, her dress, her shoes, her bag. You don't do those sorts of things, do you?
In front of them. You mean that all or in front of them?
No,
I don't really. No, me personally, I'm generally noticing what I like. You know, I'm looking for similarities, but there are people that are making comparisons, like someone's bigger or their hair isn't as thick. I mean, but me personally, I'm looking for,
but we make that unconscious decision, and then we listen to how they say something, and then finally we listen to the words. So it's that approach is what we take. So knowing that's the information that they do, and knowing probably the type of person you have, you know how to walk, how to move, and get the message across to those individuals as you go through.
Can you tell if someone knows as much as you? Like, have you ever been with someone and as you're moving, they're moving?
Yes.
Then does that sort of weird you out? Or?
No, it's a lot of fun. It's a bit like a chess game, you know. You do a move, you do a move, you do a move. It's really a lot of fun when it goes back to each other, and if you take it in that spirit, it works out very well. I mean, in the end, everyone wants to have a win-win situation, so you're always trying to develop a situation where they will get something and you will get something, because fundamentally most people are wanting to provide a situation where they feel good about themselves and the other person feels good as well, so that they're adding value in what they're doing. So from that perspective, it's always a lot of fun in terms of having that sort of situation. If the other person doesn't know, then it just means that it makes the process a little bit easier for you to be able to get.
So tell me, say in situations like misery likes company, or say you don't want to be miserable, but you want to match the person you're with and they're crabby and they're complaining. So I guess in those situations, do you just try and change the subject or choose new friends, or?
Well, you could look for new friends. In a situation where you have a person who's maybe feeling depressed or unhappy, the situation is why you're there. But if you're there to assist them and help them and try to get them to feel better, then the best way of doing that is actually what I talk about is actually change their thinking process, changing their focus on what there is in their mindset. And the quickest and easiest way of doing that is to ask questions which are going to come out of left field, which makes them stop and think. Because they're really focused on who they are and what their problems are. But if you ask another question that comes out of that, like, what did you think Baraka said the other day? Do you agree that makes a lot of sense? And they're going to go, what's that got to do with my problem? And you ask those questions, and what it does is it stops their thinking process about being unhappy. And then once you stop that process, you can then move them on to the area of getting them to think better about what they need.
You know what, I can't believe that we've already at the end of our show today. So I have to have you back on the show, because I have so many more questions and there's so many more areas to cover. So Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure.
It has been for me too.
You're welcome.
So you've been watching NatChat. I hope you've enjoyed our show, and if you'd like to see this show or any other show, please check our website out, NatChat.